Hello, welcome and welcome back everyone. Hope you're all doing well. So, in today's video, I am going to talk to you all about all the books I read in April. Now, as I believe I mentioned in a previous video, I knew that this wasn't going to be the biggest reading month for me. Not only was it my birthday, but also the best friend was also here visiting me in the Netherlands. And because of that, I didn't really expect to read too much. And that checked out. I only read 7 books. And they were all audiobooks. Oh, so funnily enough, I will add this little tidbit for this video. I had already recorded this one. I decided to record this video at my hotel before I started heading back home after seeing the bestie off back home to Scotland. However, I'm going to insert a little clip here of said video and I want you guys to tell me what is wrong. So insert clip here, 5 Broken Blades by Corland. Because not only was it my, so each of these characters, like the kind of main character, you're kind of following along with them. You're kind of following along with them. Things are going to eventually happen between Stella and Tyler, but maybe not in the way you're going to expect. And I'm just like, oh, okay. I recommend listening or reading Game On by Navessa. Now, pause this little shit. I'm going to touch somebody. No, you're not. You're going to be back there. Thank you. I don't know if you could tell. These little monsters, when I have 2 of them, they can be fiendish. And I believe where I have a microphone, it's like here or here. I think it was this one. It kept like tapping and rubbing and at the beginning it sounded really fine. And I was like, okay, great, grand, go, go, go. And then I was like, rub, 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 rub. I was like, no. You know what? There are ways to kind of remove that sound. I can't be bothered. So just because it is such a short April month of reading, I'm just re-recording it. Shh, don't tell anyone. What we're going to do is I'm kind of just going to go kind of fast-paced just because all of the books I read were amazing. I definitely had a favourite for the month. Believe it came out at the end of March, and I think it was my first book I read in April. And that one was Game On by Navessa. The final book of the Lights Out Caught Up series. I loved it. I love Tyler. I love Stella. I think out of all the books, it was my favourite. I think it was just because it also had a bit more kink stuff in it, and I was quite intrigued. I was like, oh, I loved it. Not to mention the narrators. Stunning. So Game On is finally giving us the story of Tyler. And Tyler has a bit of a history we kind of see off and on throughout the other 2 books. And up until this point, we're kind of like, why is he the way he is? Why is he just an aloof, like kind of very chaotic? Game On explains why. And it's quite sad. It makes me feel really sad. And naturally, he's grown up knowing one thing. And usually, if that's the case, maybe he's not getting the entire truth of their entire situation. So, what he intends to do is kind of try and get back at his father, who kind of left him and his mother when he was a child, and they kind of had to fend for themselves. And in order to do so, he's going to be using Stella. So Stella is our main female protagonist, and it's definitely a situation where they're kind of using each other. She's using him for her own reasons, as well as him. And I really like it. I love her character. I love her development, but I love Tyler's. Oh, I'm just going to say, did the book slightly unlock a potential new kink? Anyway, it was a 5-star. I do believe it was my favourite book of the month. However, I'm just going to go straight on to my second favourite book because this was the only book I started as physical. So it was going to be my physical book, but then I did decide to just listen to it. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I think I'm just going to start listening to all of K.M. Moronova's books because, oh my god, the narration is so good. And because obviously I did start it as a paperback, of course I'm talking about My Blade Your Back by K.M. Moronova, and this is the second book in the series. So it's a duology. It's following along with Cameron and Emery. This book is definitely focusing a lot on Emery, But the thing is, I can't really say a whole too much about it because otherwise it will completely spoil what happens at the end of the first book, and I don't want to do that. So all you need to know is that this is a dark military romance, so there's a lot of trigger warnings. So always, whenever it comes to dark romance, do make sure you check your trigger warnings because obviously it might not be for everyone. I completely understand that. So this book is basically seeing Emery becoming part of the team that Cameron, aka Maury, is a part of, and they are getting sent off on their first major mission. And it could be a life or death situation, we don't know, but it's also kind of following Emery coming to terms with everything that happened in the first book. So that's the best way I can describe it. There's a lot of graphic descriptions in here. So again, I do reiterate, please make sure you check trigger warnings. But if you do like that sort of stuff, definitely recommend. And like Game On, this is definitely my kind of second favourite book of the month. So definitely recommend. The next book I finally listened to was me finally getting around to the last Emily Wilde book. So I have now officially finished the Emily Wilde series with Compendium of Lost Tales. Let me check the Bible. Compendium of Lost Tales. So I gave this one a 4.5 and it is really cozy, it's really whimsical because you're finally getting to go with Emily and Wendell Bambleby into his realm while he is trying to take it back from his supposedly dead stepmother. However, as with anything in Fae, probably things are not going to go the way they expect, and that is definitely what happens. But I think, if memory serves, the one thing I said I would love to get more of in the audiobooks is more of Bambleby talking. It gave me it in spades. I loved it. So we actually got more of Bamblebee's narrator, which I love because I felt quite sad, especially in the second book, that you didn't really get to hear a whole lot of him, and it was only like right at the very end. And I was kind of hoping, because he's such a good narrator, a little bit of Irish, because he is an Irish Fae, he's an Irish guy. So I really hoped we'd get more of their narration, and we did. And I loved it. I really did. Like, I wouldn't say it was a 5-star, because I felt like it was quite mild, but it did make me quite emotional at certain parts, because you didn't really know what things were going to happen, if people were going to survive. There was a little bit of tension, I'll say that. But I would definitely recommend the entire series. I would say out of all these series, I would say that this third one was slightly a favourite, just because of the narration on the audiobook. You did get more of Bambleby. However, I would need to re-listen to the first book. Now remember, I rated the first one lower than I think the last two books because I read it. I didn't listen to it. If I was to listen to the first book, my opinion might change. But I think it might be the third book just because it's more of Bambleby, the second book and the first book. So, but yeah, definitely recommend if you're looking for a very cozy, whimsical Fae tale, which is kind of a bit different from your typical Fae stories because you're actually kind of like researching, right? It's very fun. I did manage to listen to one ALC throughout April. Also insert, I'm forgetting names of authors. Take a drink. Emily Wilde, obviously Heather Fawcett, My Blade Your Back, Moronova. There, insert, done, thank you. But the ALC I managed to listen to was Love Overboard by Kandi Steiner. And I rated it a 4.5. Realistically though, if I was to re-listen to it, if I was to get the book and stuff, it might even be a 5. Just because the narration was also incredible. Like, it was a dual point narration where you had the male character having the male voice, the female character having the female voice, which I love because there's obviously sometimes a narration where they try to do all the voices and it's not really the best. I mean,
firing arrows into the sunset.
You have that. So in this book, you are basically following along with a crew that are on board a very luxurious cruise liner, and it's a reality TV show, so they're always being followed around by a film crew. They never really have any personal space. However, on this occasion, we have Ember, I believe. Ember is our main female protagonist, and you have Finn, who is our main male protagonist. I honestly don't remember if the book got told by both of them. However, I know that in the narration, you do have the duet where you have the male voice and the female voice. I'm fairly certain that everything is told from the female perspective, which is fine. So the story follows Ember, and she is now finally becoming the chief stew, which is kind of a very important role within the crew kind of get up. She's the one that kind of makes sure everything's running smooth, everything is like set up, etc. However, she doesn't realize that Finn, who at this point is her ex, is also part of the crew, and he has a girlfriend who is also on the crew. You can tell the drama that's going to unfold. So naturally, she's not happy. I don't think he's particularly thrilled about it either. And it kind of goes from there. And naturally, with it being a reality TV show, there's constant tension, there's constant banter between all of the crew, but especially between Ember and Finn. And you can kind of tell second chance romance, what things are going to happen. If you know, you know. And it kind of just all blows up in their faces. But I love the book. It was very, very fun. The male narrator is also the same one that does all of K.M. Moronova's books. So if you like him, would highly recommend. But yeah, definitely an amazing book. And I've had the book actually pre-ordered for a while. And I believe it's currently at one of my places to deliver in the UK. So fingers crossed I'll get it soon. So definitely recommend. So my last audiobook that I did manage to finish in April was just as my best friend was arriving in the Netherlands. And that was 5 Broken Blades by May Corland. Now, I love this book. I believe I did give it 4.5 stars. I don't think I would give it higher. I really enjoyed it. I love a travel story. So you are following a whole bunch of different people, all trying to like go to one set location because all of these people have different traits in order to kill the king, to assassinate the king. So you have a disgraced prince who will hopefully become the next king. You have his kind of on-off lover, aka the spy master, who's traveling with him. So you have those. And then you have a girl who has been trained in this poison school and she is completely immune to all poisons. And they use that to their advantage and they kind of use her to, you know, kill people with her poisons. And she is traveling along with the son of, I believe, the count who kind of bought her in order to become this poison lady. And she hates him, but he loves her. So very, very fun dynamic there. Then you have this man who can be hired to like get things done brutally, but he has been hired by this girl who is a thief. And she has a very particular way of thieving that nobody ever really sees, and they don't know how she does it, but she has a secret. But all of the people are basically going off to meet up with another person who is involved with trying to assassinate the king. And it kind of goes whoosh. But the ending of the book makes me very excited for the second book. But I definitely recommend the book. If you are really into kind of fantasy style, kind of like Asian setting, because it gave me Mulan vibes, actually. It gave me Mulan vibes. I was like, let's get down to business to defeat the king who is apparently a god. Not to defeat the Huns and no disgrace on your cow. Disgrace on you! Disgrace on your cow! But yeah, very fun. Now, the final 2 books I read were my kind of like in between my birthday and my bestie coming, and they were both the final 2 books of the Twisted series. So I finished Twisted Hate and Twisted Lies by, of course, Anna Huang. Now, I liked Twisted Hate, however, it was probably my least favorite, which is kind of not expected. I gave it a 4 star, and I don't know what it was. Like, overall, I really liked it. I have a very big, like, soft spot is the term for, like, very, like, hateful banter, even though you can clearly tell they love each other and just that dynamic. But I don't know, there's, like, some part of it later on, and it was like, ooh. I don't know. I think it was like, I can't remember if it was like a consent thing or honestly, I can't remember what it was, but something gave me the ick. But then going on too quickly with Twisted Lies, it also kind of gave me the ick, but then it kind of turned it around. I'm like, oh, that one's actually kind of a darker one because our main protagonist in there is a slight stalker. So, but Twisted Hate, the book naturally follows along with Josh and Jules, I believe. So you've seen them in the previous 2 books, so in Twisted Love and Twisted Games. And you can clearly tell that they hate each other, so we finally get their story. And kind of the reasons as to why they kind of hate each other, so we have that. And then in Twisted Lies, we are actually following along with the final friend, Stella. And she is having a kind of fake relationship, fake boyfriend, whatever, with Christian. And Christian is the owner of her and Jules's old apartment complex, but he was also very much a friend with Reese from Twisted Games, aka the bodyguard. But Christian has some secrets, and I'm gonna tell you. Ooh. I think out of all the male characters, he was the one that definitely intrigued me the most. So I really liked it. And again, with Twisted Lies, there's a whole thing with their dynamic. Definitely one of my top favorite ones. I think Twisted Games still is my favorite. Twisted Lies, I gave a 4.5 star. It would have got a 5 star, but am I the only one that found it slightly repetitive? Because I swear to God, if I had to hear the words, his whiskey eyes, one more bloody time, or I was like whiskey eyes or whiskey smell, something like repetitiveness, right? Like it has its place, but it was kind of constant, and I'm just like, girl, there's other descriptive words, my guy, like, come on. But I actually really liked it, and I would say near the end of Twisted Lies, it got real good. Like, it got dark. There was stalking. I'm like, okay, that book was the darkest one, I think. But yeah, I do believe that covers all the books I read. And again, they were all audiobooks. Now, I did obviously start the K. Moronova book as a paperback, and I am glad I switched it to audiobook because it was a very good audiobook. So I'm very much a fan of switching, and it did make sure that I got it finished. So I can't really complain. But yeah, let me know what books you also read in the month of April. You can also tell me what book you enjoyed me reading this month. Naturally, if you do like the video, please make sure you give it a like, a comment, and of course subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you want to let me know that you were here and don't know what to say, leave a, because the weather has been stunning recently, just put a little man with the sunglasses somewhere here. Here. Put the man with the sunglasses because the weather has been stunning. We might as well embrace the sunny weather, right? Makes sense. But yeah, until next time, guys, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.